We take buying food, like these bananas and this packet of rice, from other countries for granted. But with the growing concerns of food sustainability, will items like these soon be out of reach? I spoke to experts from the 2050 Cookbook Sessions to find out more about the future of the food industry, to see what we'll be eating in 40 years' time. In a nutshell, what is the future of our food, in your opinion?
I think that's very difficult to be sure of what's going to happen in the next few decades, but I think there are certain things that we know, and we know we're going to be feeding somewhere in the region of 9 billion people by 2050, which is half as many again as we've got on the planet at the moment. So that's a big challenge in itself. There are also those elements that we know less about the exact impact of, with global warming being major amongst them, that are going to have a big influence in themselves. So there's no question there's going to be a challenge in terms of actually being able to provide enough food for people to eat. We have 1 billion people at the moment that don't get enough people to eat. We're adding another 3 million to that. That's going to be the big issue.
Do you think there's going to be any dramatic changes in the future, and do you think we should be worried?
I think it depends on how we measure dramatic. Yes, I think they will be dramatic, but whether or not the consumer of 2050 thinks it's dramatic or not, I don't know. But certainly if you look at the last 40 years, and the way in which we now move our food around all over the country without thinking about it, yes, I think there will be a dramatic change. And the work we've done on hub sourcing in the last 3 years has tried to change that model. And I think we've got a lot of work to do, and I think we can change it. And I think if you look at dairy and other bulky items, I think getting back to processing our dairy closer to where the farms are will be a major change from the centralised hubs that we're currently enjoying. At the moment, virtually all Welsh milk, for instance, goes to Birmingham. And I don't think that's particularly bright, and I think that's something we could change without too much difficulty, but with a lot of foresight.
So what kind of food can we expect to be eating in 40 years' time?
Well, I hope that we're eating very high quality food that's produced in a sustainable fashion, with a regard for animal welfare, that tastes really good. I mean, a restaurateur, flavour is really important to me. I think there are probably some trends that we should expect. Meat is very demanding in terms of the resources that it uses, and it may well be that we start to see meat becoming more expensive than it is at the moment, and perhaps we eat less meat. So that might be something. There are huge questions about fish stocks and the sustainability of those fish stocks, and there's action being taken already, and there probably have to be further action in the future. So it may be that our diet becomes less reliant on those forms of protein, so less reliant on meat and less reliant on fish and more reliant on vegetables. But even in those areas, it very much depends on what we're prepared to do in terms of farming practices and making kind of food available for demand worldwide.
I think we can enjoy some variety that we're not currently getting. I'm looking forward to an excellent Welsh wine crop in 40 years' time, although I may not be around to enjoy it. But I think there's plenty that we can do. But I think we really need to look at the models elsewhere, and we need to do some research going forward into countries that currently grow crops in landscape not too dissimilar to ours, but do a much better job of it. So I think there's all sorts of exotic things that we think of exotic that we can grow, but also there's a lot of basics that we can produce here too, and I don't think we need to lose sight of those.
And finally, how do you believe we can encourage Wales and its local communities to support local produce?
I think we already see that there's a big move towards local produce, and it's all about food culture really. If people learn to fall in love with food, if they cook, if it becomes a big part of their lives, then they tend to want better quality food, and often that means local. People have concerns about the environment, about sustainability, about carbon footprint. That's all a factor too. But I think there's a distinctiveness to the produce that we have in Wales that makes people want to cook that at home and in their restaurants. So I think it kind of almost happens naturally, but it is very dependent on people being prepared to pay for that one way or another, because it can't be done super cheaply.